All right, welcome. I'm Paul Witkay, the founder of the Alliance of CEOs. Welcome to the latest edition of our Alliance AI roundtables for all of us to learn from each other and learn faster. It's been over 2 years now since our first one. Back then, we were all just experimenting and seeing what ChatGPT and other LLMs could do for us. Since then, it's evolved a lot where almost everybody is employing them in some way, whether they're for their own personal leadership or for your business operations or even transforming your company. And so we continue to learn. And today I am pleased to welcome our guest CEO, Donn Duncan, CEO of D&D Distributing, a wholesale HVAC distributor out in South Carolina. And he was introduced to us by our Alliance Director, Steve Hutchcraft, are you still in Alabama today? You're on mute, but
Yeah, yeah, I'm not going very far, Paul. You know that.
yep.
So,
Okay.
so
Well,
yes, I
welcome
am.
everybody. Welcome everybody. And with that, I'm going to get this thing rolling. And please, Matthew Swanson, our moderator and founder CEO of StaffAI, will be our moderator once again. So Matthew, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Well, if you joined us last time, you heard how Craig Hunter from Covalent has been able to use AI as a digital twin so that his team can now consult with his Craigbot, as he calls it, as a first line of contact. It was an excellent showcase of how AI tools are not just for techies, but everyone in the organization, including the CEO. We're going to continue on that theme today with our guest, Donn Duncan, who will be speaking about how he is using AI employees for his sales operations at his HVAC distribution business. Donn will share how he's able to work with an AI employee, just like a remote human contractor, to perform what used to be a time-consuming and manual claim back process. I met Donn, as mentioned, through fellow Alliance member Steve Hutchcraft last year, and late last year began helping working with his company through StaffAI. So as full disclosure, you will see a StaffAI agent in action here, but the point of this roundtable is to highlight Donn's journey to using AI to solve his business challenge. So as way of introduction, Donn is the owner and CEO of D&D Distributing, which is a member of the Johnstone Supply organization. Donn has spent the past 34 years in the HVAC distribution business. And in addition to Johnstone Upstate, he owns 3 other related businesses. Donn, thank you for joining us today, especially during this busy season of yours. And to get things started, we like to kick off with a set of rapid fire questions, which is a fun way for us to get to know you a little bit better. So our first question, when did you decide that AI was going to be an important part of your business?
Well, it was a process. So you see everything going on and what's happening, with AI, and you basically have two choices, or I had two choices, which was do nothing, put my head in the sand, wait and see what my competition's doing, and then try to piggyback along with them, or to go out and start looking and exploring and seeing if there was something that would work for us in our business. And so probably maybe 6 months ago.
Fair enough. Um, Second question, to give us a sense of your business priorities, you've been using AI for, a little bit of time here. What comes to mind as your most important AI initiative for this upcoming quarter?
That would probably be an inside sales agent.
Okay, I think we're going to get into that a little bit further ahead. Um, Final rapid fire question. You are an Army veteran. What's one thing that your military experience has taught you about running your business?
Uh, don't sweat the small stuff. 85% of it's small. Focus on the people and the customers, and things will take care of themselves.
Sounds like sage advice. Thank you, Donn, and thank you for your service. Moving into our talk track here, we'll kick things off with a demo. We like to showcase AI in action rather than talk about it. And Don, you have prepared a recording of your AI employee, and we'll walk through that together, and you can kind of share with us what's going on in terms of a business operation perspective. As we load that up, maybe just help orient us with what the problem was. We talked about this claim back process that you go through as a business. Can you share kind of the nature of why you're doing that in the first place?
Sure. To make it short and sweet, so there's a company called Daikin, that's the world's largest air conditioning manufacturer, that we sell quite a lot of their products. And the way they go to market is basically I buy it for $1, I sell it for 80 cents. I go through a claim back process and maybe I get 40 cents back. You've got to have certain codes to put in, and they have all kind of programs where maybe I don't sell it for 80 cents, I sell it for 75 cents or 70 cents or 60 cents. So the actual profitability of that brand really depends a lot about how this process takes place at the end of each month to claim back money.
Okay. That sounds like a pretty material part of the business model at D&D. So let's get into it. So we're going to walk through now a AI employee handling this process. First thing to call out here is I see John Rock. Who is John?
John's our remote AI employee. You start getting confused with names and referring to things when you're talking to people. And so with my team, this needed to be personal to them.
Makes sense. So we have talked in the past about the trend of humanizing AI, and so giving it a name is one way to do that. Here we're gonna see the AI with an email, with a Gmail account, just like a human might have, logging in to their inbox. It's worth calling out here. Everything we're watching here is the AI moving its mouse cursor and operating the machine. So next we're seeing John go through and looking for this CAD. What does that mean? What is a CAD?
It's when the manufacturer decides to have a sale on their product line, and you normally know about it 2 days ahead of time.
So it just happened randomly. Like, why are they not coordinating that with you?
Well, they don't want us and or the customer base to know too far ahead of time when it's coming.
I see. So they're basically trying to make sure people don't gain the promotions.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So you have these, I guess, emails that come through that your AI is now looking for.
Right. And you saw the codes in the bottom right of that picture. So those are
I see here
you would use for that particular promotion.
Okay. So we're watching the AI now go through its inbox, look for these sort of promotions, send it off to another AI employee. Then we're going to see the AI look for other types of claimbacks. It looks like these claimback reports. Where do these come from?
They get generated off of our ERP at the end of the month.
And they get emailed to somebody in the org?
They do, and then eventually make their way to John.
Okay. So, a lot of email going on here. So, that's how John is interacting. Now what we're going to see is John sent this off to another AI employee, Lee. And describe what's going on here. This looks pretty complicated. Here's a spreadsheet. What's happening?
This is each piece of an HVAC system who that particular customer was, represented by the dealer number, their name, of course, our invoice number, the date it happened, and the pricing associated with that sale.
And so, we're watching an AI update the spreadsheet. What was happening before the AI was doing that
It was all manual.
with a human employee?
Yes.
Okay. Can you take us through, some of the shortcomings in that process? I mean, I'm seeing a lot of,
Well,
codes and
yeah,
what have you.
obviously it was tedious, but then as well, a lot of opportunities for errors and mistakes, which could be caught. It would get kicked back, and then now you're delaying. Maybe getting this money back now is going to take an additional 30 days longer than it would have.
Got it. So the human rep would go through the spreadsheet, update codes to the best of their memory. Now you have the AI doing that based off of all the emails it's receiving.
Yep.
Have you noticed any differences you can share between the two?
Much more accurate. The folks that were involved in it on my team are thrilled to death about it. And it's just working. It's working fantastic. I mean, it's a fantastic use case for us.
As a way to get started. Okay. Let's continue through this John Rock flow here. So, it generates this report, and now we're going to watch it log into this portal. What is this website we're looking at?
Yeah, this is going back to Duncan to make our request for the funds to come back to me. So once you've prepared all your data, you think you've got it completely accurate, you're ready to go. Now this is actually going on the manufacturer's internal site and filing for our rebate money.
Right. And so I guess the significance is because the AI is clicking on the screens, you didn't have to work with Daikin to integrate. It could just use whatever your human employee was using.
Yes.
Okay.
Fantastic product, being that it's operating its own desktop.
Which, yeah, I mean, it's a newer thing, but we're, as we're showing here, AI can now click on screens and you can follow along like a person will, review it like it was a person doing the job. And I think that puts us to the submission. And there we go. So is that, I mean, maybe just share for us so we understand, the nature of this job. Is this an end-to-end job? Is this able to is somebody having to oversee this?
No. I mean, I guess, we're kind of coordinating what's the check that comes back in, sort of an expectation versus reality. But other than that, nobody is really having to oversee the process that we just went through. John's taking care of it.
All right. Well, kudos to John. Let's get into kind of the journey now. So we just saw an AI automation end. Obviously there was a process there to get that set up. So let's start from the beginning. You mentioned in the rapid fire questions, you made a decision about 6 months ago to, prioritize AI in your business.
Sure.
You're operating in a brick and mortar environment. Like, what was the event that prompted you to start looking for an AI solution? Was there something in your industry or, some news event?
Well, I follow a lot of the AI companies, whether that's Instagram or X or YouTube, or, try to anticipate what's coming 12, 18, 24 months down the road. Nothing really from an industry event standpoint. We've got various industry associations that bring up AI. We currently use a CRM program that's got a little bit of AI involved in it. So basically, I just began by contacting all the providers that I knew of through our industry associations, and what I found is that they all had a product. In other words, they created their own use scenario on something, and I would get on Zoom with them and they'd be like, okay, we've got four things to show you. We've got one that does this, we got one that does this, we got one that does this, and one that does this. Does any of that seem to align with any part of your business? And I'm like, well, this one maybe a little bit, 45% of it does. This one maybe 25% of it does. So there was nothing that basically just said, "Hey, look, we can, uh, uh, if a remote employee could do anything in the world for you, AI could do that." And I'm like, "Wow!" It kind of just blew my mind a little bit, and I went in 75 different directions of what I would like a remote AI employee to do for me. Right. And so this kind of became our first pain point use case of sort of proving its ability with us, and and validating the process really. It wasn't a pre-programmed canned product. We've got product A, B, and C. Which one do you like?
Got it. So you were looking for having something that could solve your end-to-end use case. You found something that, you know, kind of met the criteria. Take us through the setup process. We talk a lot about, we hear a lot about all these advanced tools, but then we hear, oh yeah, I just hire a tech team and do a bunch of integration. So maybe share with us, what involvement your IT team had, or any other, you know, team allocations to get this going.
What wasn't much from an IT team standpoint. It was basically what would you do from an HR perspective if you hired somebody to do this particular task? You've got a really bright young person that just came to work for you. How would you teach them what you want them to do? And you just step through that process of, okay, well, the system will generate this, and then we want you to do this with it, and then do this, and be careful about that. And so it was basically just conversational from the standpoint of how you would train somebody to come on board and do the job.
Got it. So treating it like a remote contractor, I think you've already said that. And yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a paradigm shift, I guess, that, we can now talk to AI and have it do things on our behalf, and just a kind of a different way of looking at the technology. All right. Well, so you trained the AI, coached it to start doing the claim back. What was that? How quickly were you able to train something like this?
I think it was maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
So 2, 3 weeks, and what were you looking for in terms of, knowing that it was measuring success?
Well, I mean, so in the past, here's the way I managed the process. I had a plus or minus on it. I'd be like, all right, we were expecting to get a $500,000. Were we within 2% either way? Okay, move on. Uh, with this, I was hoping to get it. This is what we expected. This is exactly the amount we got. So, complete accuracy and accountability. And so far, it's done exactly that. So, if I don't know how you quantify that from a standpoint of additional money made or money saved, but I'm sure it's there.
Understood. Um, okay, well, we saw a real, kind of a detailed example of an AI in action. Now that you have seen this, computer use, AI clicking around, acting like a remote contractor, what is, how are you looking at your future, call it AI employee roadmap? I mean, who are you hiring next?
Well, I mean, I think there's a case. So in my business, in terms of wholesale HVAC and refrigeration, there's a large swath of customers and accounts that we have that are small contractors, and they don't necessarily justify a dedicated outside salesperson dealing with that account. And my counter staff stays pretty busy with guys walking in. So I think there's a big use case for a inside to outside sales agent dealing with the small account list that we have, which probably at this point is maybe 1,500 accounts, and trying to promote our company and promote our products and get more of their business to us.
So you have something like 1,500 accounts that you could be generating, doing sales with. How many of those are being serviced today with your human workforce?
They're being serviced if they visit my location.
I
That,
see. Okay.
if they choose to visit a different location, we don't know about it. We're not in communication with them. We communicate with them if they come into our locations.
So you could hire an AI employee for it, which is what kind of what you suggested. Why would you could also hire a human employee? How do you think between the two?
Uh, I don't think there's a quality process followed like I would want it to be followed with a human employee or blood pumper, as I like to refer to them. And typically, um, it'll be hit or miss, and they'll achieve a couple of successes, and then they'll be like, okay, now I'm ready to go out and be one of those dedicated outside sales guys. Put me on the road. No, no, no. I need you behind the desk doing this job on the phone. And I've tried that with a couple of human people before, and it never really worked out. And campaigns weren't followed up on and followed through completely. And you know, as humans, we have a tendency to gravitate to what's safe and easiest for us. And they would develop a relationship with maybe 30 of that 1,500, and then that would be who they were working with, and they were neglecting the rest of them.
Okay. Well, so that, I see this question came up in the chats as well. And by the way, for everyone there, we're going to try to get through your questions, but we also come back after the breakout sessions. If you want to, Don, Paul, and I will stick around if you have additional questions. But I did see one that's related to this topic, which is, so you shared there's a use case, you have in mind for an AI employee for this, inside sales rep. You've shared with us the benefits of the AI over the human step. How do you think about the displaced workforce? How do you think about repurposing your workforce now that you can have AI do some of these types of jobs by themselves?
Well, I mean, and I don't know everybody else's situation, but quality people are hard for me to bring on board on our team to begin with. Um, as well as the last, say, 15 years, we grow at about a 20% clip each year, which means new locations, which means new people need to come on board. So this just gives me ability to maybe maintain my head count, but yet increase what we're doing and continue on the growth trajectory with AI.
Okay. Maybe a couple more related questions. So inside sales rep seems like a natural place for your business. Anything else that comes to mind as you look at the rest of the year? Can AI help you think differently about growing your business?
Oh, 1,000%. And part of the success of our business is the success of our customers. Primarily, we do AOR dealer-based business, so guys driving vans that have a particular equipment on the side of them or whatever. We're sort of behind that, wrapping their vans, promoting our brands that we sell, teaching them about financing and this and that, and just think of the hundreds of ways you could create an AI use case for a in the field HVAC contractor. And so what could we do to bring that to our customer base from a preventative maintenance scheduling, preventative maintenance selling, targeted marketing campaigns based on income and age of HVAC equipment in different subdivisions and zip codes throughout the market territory. There's just, I mean, I could probably write down 50 use cases right now. It's just a question of, is the juice worth the squeeze? What's the pros and cons of this? How would you implement it? Do you have the time to? That kind of thing.
Well, 0 to 1 to 50 is a big jump, but I think that's what we like to see. Taking the plunge and then seeing the possibilities. Maybe last question for you. You know, I Lots of folks here are using AI in some way, shape, or form. Lots of co-pilots, lots of going to ChatGPT and what have you. Agentic AI, this whole idea of AI fully automating a task is somewhat new. What advice would you have to folks who are looking to get onto that level of automation?
Um, don't think of this as AI at all. Don't think of it as an IT process at all. Think of this as, okay, we have the smartest and brightest person out here who's ready to join your team. They know absolutely nothing about your business, what you do, none of your processes. Uh, uh, if you'll bring them on board, teach them, train them, show them, just like you would through an HR process. You tell them one time, they won't forget.
Uh-oh.
That Paul, that might be a first time of having a
Yeah,
speaker cut out.
let me ask one question, Matthew. You've been obviously, you're an alliance member. The alliance, the culture is not a place to sell what we all do, or else everybody be pitching things. But this is an example where, Matthew, you did over the last year launch StaffAI. You built models that can actually do these tasks. And there was a question, there's been several questions in the chat. The latest one is, will you address tools, process, cost to do is where does the AI live? It's just interaction with ChatGPT. No, you build something. So just as succinctly as possible, what is it that Donn is using that creates the opportunity to train brand new employees that Donn just mentioned to do specific tasks and do it well and do it 24/7?
Absolutely. I'll sum it up in one word. If you want to hear the double click, come back after the breakout session and we can do a deep dive. The one term is computer use. So if you've been following the space, there's all this MCP and API, and there's another way to use AI. It's called computer use, where it clicks on your machine. That's the difference between what you saw in this Donn use case versus others. And so, Donn, we lost your closing thought, but
Brilliant, by the way.
well, it was such a great preamble. My LLM filled in the blanks, so I think we all could finish the dots. And thank you so much for joining and sharing your perspectives. As per usual, we're gonna head into the breakout sessions. Before we do that, as a final call out, we try to keep up to date on the latest technologies, the latest use cases. We're always looking for interesting use cases to showcase here at the Alliance. So we're particularly looking for more agentic use cases like we saw today. Also, ones with voice. So if you have anything like that, please do reach out to Matthew at staffai.so. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, Paul, can you take us away?
Yeah, no, again, thank you, Don, for joining us, and thank you, Matthew, for moderating. And we're going to go into our breakout rooms. If you haven't been assigned one, I'll get you there as quickly as possible. If for any reason you don't find a moderator, just there's instructions there in the chat where basically just very quickly, 30 to 60 seconds, introduce everybody, each of yourselves. Do everybody a favor if you haven't already. Go to the top right of your own Zoom screen, click on three dots there, and click on rename to put your company name after your name so we can, again, get to know everybody as quickly as possible. Jeannie Wallenstein, our Director of Communications, did put in chat where you can download the attendance list today, which has links to your websites and your LinkedIn profile so you can get to know each other quicker. And then be ready to just describe one of your most interesting or most complex or most valuable use cases. And hopefully you'll have an opportunity to describe it and learn from others within the breakout rooms. And we'll be coming back at about 15 minutes after the hour, which would be 3:15 California, 6:15 p.m. in New York, 8:15 in Australia a.m., and 10:15 in New Zealand. So with that, I am going to open up the rooms and see you there.